Hello and welcome to the first in a series of webinars that we're putting on to tell you a bit more about our Employers Against Abuse project that we're running at the moment. So this first webinar is just a short introduction to the role of an EAA support ambassador. We're going to be telling you a bit more about what's involved, what sorts of qualities you might look for in a support ambassador, and of course the benefits that it can bring to you and your workplace. We'll start with a few quick introductions. So Faye.
Thank you, Vicky. I'm Faye Maxted. I'm the Chief Executive of the Survivors Trust and very happy to be joining this webinar.
My name's Linda Lewis and I'm the Training and Development Manager here at the Survivors Trust, and I'm delivering a programme to all the cohorts that join us.
Thanks, Linda. And I'm Vicky Robinson and I'm the Operational Support Manager here, and I've been involved with Faye and Linda in developing and running the programme as well. So we'll start with our first question, and that's what brought the project about. So as it says here, the Home Office commissioned us to help improve the support that's available to victims of violence against women and girls in the workplace. So just to quickly explain, violence against women and girls refers to a whole range of violence, including domestic abuse and sexual violence, which is what we focus on here. But it actually applies to men as well, to men and boys. And unfortunately, it's so prevalent across the UK that pretty much every workplace will have at least one victim of domestic abuse or sexual violence or other forms of violence against women and girls. It affects so many people that support is really needed. Being impacted can really affect our time at work. So if we can get that support in the workplace, that can make a massive impact.
Thanks, Vicky. I would like to just add as well there, this is an exciting project and one that's certainly needed. And another key aim of the project is to actually break down the barriers that many people experience when they're facing issues such as domestic or sexual abuse and violence. There is a stigma associated with that, and often you will find people are experiencing these issues and then coming into work, and it can be really challenging and difficult for them, feeling quite embarrassed, perhaps feeling a sense of shame about it. And we want to remove those stigmas, and we want to make it feel comfortable that if anybody is experiencing this, these forms of violence against women and girls, they cost the UK economy alone £14 billion a year. Because they've got employees who are experiencing forms of domestic violence, and often it can be happening right under their nose, and they've no understanding of why people are having to have time off sick, why they might be struggling, why they're not as productive as they normally are. And so having an understanding support system in place at work can make all the difference. And for many of these situations, it is just a short-term issue in terms of being able to have a little time to get the help and guidance they need so that they can continue to do their job. What we don't want is to see people losing their jobs because they feel they've got no other option but to leave. Shall we have a look at what the role is then? I'll just take us now through to the next slide. It is about being that single point of contact in an organisation where somebody is aware that there is a colleague available that they can go to if they're struggling with personal issues relating to domestic or sexual violence. So it's very similar to the other roles we have already, such as a first aider or a mental health first aider, where you've got somebody within the organisation, the rest of the team know that this person is trained and that they can make contact with them and get some help and support.
A big part of it as well, Linda, is raising awareness, isn't it? So I think a lot of our ambassadors might not speak directly to someone who is experiencing these problems, but just by, for example, putting up a poster or a leaflet or letting people know this is a problem, that can just help someone to A, feel less alone, and B, maybe think about asking for help.
Absolutely. Sometimes when you experience these types of abuses, it can feel very isolating, and it's not unusual as well for many people. They don't want to tell their family or their close social circles because of that stigma. And for some groups, there is certainly a bigger stigma because it might actually create conflict within families, and so there can be a lot of pressure on the victims to remain with an abusive partner or having abusive family members. So having that impartial approach, somebody who's not emotionally attached to the situation, can make all the difference.
Thanks, Linda. I think as well, some people might be thinking this is such a big issue. They might be quite wary of taking on the responsibility. What are the things they need to think about before going into the role?
I would certainly give reassurance that you are not expected to be a specialist. So to do this, you have to have a basic awareness and understanding. If you do come forward to access the training, we will give you all of the information you will need. You will be given lots of resources. We've got a signposting booklet, which will give you extensive details of where you can look locally and nationally for support. And if the employee who's being abused needs help and wants help, then the support ambassador can share some ideas of what's available locally and nationally. And that can be really valuable to those who are experiencing this.
We talk loads, don't we, about signposting, but it's to let people know there are some really great specialist organisations out there, and people might not be aware of them. So a really big part of the support ambassador role is making people aware of what's out there. And then it's up to that person if they want to go out and seek that support. Yeah. Maybe they might not today, but they'll know it's there if they need it. So yeah, we really do champion those specialist support organisations.
And I would certainly add as well that there is no pressure. You're simply giving information. If the individual chooses to take up the support or not, it's absolutely fine. And basically what you're there as a support ambassador to do is just let them know that you're there for them if they want to come back, check in again. I would certainly say the role is an empowerment role. It's not telling people what to do. It's very much about giving them their autonomy to be able to make choices based on information, so they can make that informed consent about what they're going to do next. So shall we have a look then a little bit more about specifics around the role? So as you can see from the slide there, you are not expected to be the only source of support for anybody experiencing this. You are there simply to pass on information so they can access that specialist support if they choose to do so. You're also not expected to be providing counselling or diagnosis. That's not what this role is. You're also certainly not expected to become heavily involved with what could potentially become dangerous situations. Most cases don't end up being dangerous, but we've always got to be risk aware that some certain situations, things could become more challenging. And if there are, the training is given to the ambassador to help them feel completely at ease about the processes. And the other aspect of this is, again, we are not there to go removing people's autonomy unless there is an absolute need to. So we are not there to go reporting and referring colleagues onto other departments or external agencies without their consent. And the only time we would do that is, of course, should any serious concerns arise for the ambassador during a particular situation they're dealing with.
I think just to add to that as well, and this is something we're going to talk about in a couple of future webinars actually, throughout this, the ambassador should be working with their employer as well. So we would expect their employer, their manager, whoever, to really support them in this role, to support them with policies and procedures, and to be there to make sure that the role works within that particular working environment as well.
I think that's a really important point, Vicky, and hopefully the ambassador would also be supporting the employer to introduce policies that are more supportive to anyone who's experiencing any kind of abuse in their home life.
Absolutely. And actually that takes us on quite nicely to the next slide, because this is more clear about what the role is and what's expected. And so certainly a single point of contact, but also being able to work with managers and or relevant departments on putting an infrastructure in place to support the colleagues that come forward to get help, but also an infrastructure for the support ambassador, like Vicky said. They do need an opportunity to be able to have a debrief or report back to somebody. So you need to have a clear pathway when the role's in place. So if we look at this slide, then we can see quite clearly what the role is about. You will learn a great deal of that knowledge and have that clearer understanding through the training you will receive through us. So you will learn to understand what the impact and signs of possible domestic sexual abuse and general trauma is. We, of course, to foster the awareness of that within your organisation and raising awareness, changing the culture really within the place of work so that people feel safe and okay to come and talk about this. People do have personal issues that can arise on many other traumas as well as domestic and sexual abuse. So it's really useful to have a culture where people feel safe and okay to come and talk about it. Another part of the role is how you would respond to anybody when they do seek your help. Also expanding your knowledge and understanding of what resources are available locally and nationally. And again, we've got a great deal of information to support you with that. And you know, actually signposting your colleagues to the appropriate resources. You will also be helping and working with the relevant teams to create empowering policies within the workplace. And I really think that we should look at this not as it being the sole responsibility of the ambassador, especially if you've got one ambassador in a very large organisation. What can work is having a working group where you've got somebody, a member of the HR team, a member of safeguarding, a manager, coming together with the support ambassador to create empowering policies that will support the ambassador themselves, as well as colleagues and the employees that need your help. It really depends on the nature of the work that you do. Please don't worry about that because it's still relevant to you. We're there, we give you lots of ideas, we give you templates. We've got a handbook with lots more detail around the role. We mentioned the signposting booklet as well, and of course all the training slides. Faye.
Yeah, thanks, Linda. What are the qualities that really we're looking for in a support ambassador?
When I look at the people I've already been training, you can see their employers have wisely chosen and recruited people in their agency because the people have a natural instinct to have good person-centered qualities. They're easy to talk to, having good listening ear. Also, they're not phased too much as well, because it does require a level of calm responses to some of the issues. What we also need to consider is there will be survivors already working, and what we don't want to do is put a lot of pressure on people that, oh, so-and-so might do a good job of that because she's experienced domestic abuse or he's experienced it. And it needs much further thought because that could also be triggering. It could be perfect for them. It really depends on them as an individual and where they are in their own personal journey. It's looking for people who've got a level of resilience, and transparency is a big one, because you've got to create a level of trust with people. You might think you work with people and know them very well. I can tell you now, we never fully know everybody we work with. Everybody has their private lives, and for many people it can be certainly private. It's something they wouldn't ordinarily share. So we've got to be ready for that, and we've got to be able to think on our feet. You know, something could happen where there could be a level of risk, and we've got to be able to know what to do.
That's brilliant. Thanks, Linda.
I just wanted to add a couple of practical things because we haven't said what our training involves. It's 2 3-hour training sessions where, like Linda said, we'll give you all the resources you need, and we operate from a platform that we keep adding to as well, so people can share their experiences, ask each other questions, and then about 6 weeks later, Linda, we have a support and supervision session. Would you mind explaining briefly what that involves?
Yes, of course. Yeah, it's really helpful because we mop up any areas where people would like me to go through something again or finish off anything we didn't spend enough time on. But in addition to that, we do like to also offer an opportunity where they can share how they're getting on, how they're doing in terms of setting up the service, identifying what the challenges may be. And again, it's all about, well, how can we aid that? How can we support them to get the service up and running? We do appreciate every agency has challenges with availability of resources and so on. It's simply an ability to come back together with their peers, listening to each other's experiences and identifying what more we can do.
You've been getting some great feedback as well, haven't you, in the supervision sessions? People saying, I've given this a go, or, you know, someone spoke to me about this, so that's great to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to say, the people who've come on the training, they really have embraced it, and they've recognised their commitments, but they are in a place where they can carry out this secondary role of being a support ambassador. And it's very similar, like I mentioned earlier, to that of a first aider or a mental health first aider. And it's up to the agency to decide how you manage it. So it's for the employer to identify and define how will this work. In many cases, it could simply be them contacting them by email even, or a phone call. It might be just putting information on your website too, on the intranet, for employees in terms of the kinds of support assistance you can provide, letting them know and be aware that an individual exists with this role and you can contact them in this way, and that can be so supportive and helpful.
Thanks, Linda. Vicky, do you want to say a little bit about how people can get involved, what people can do to sign up to Employers Against Abuse?
Yeah, absolutely. So all the information is on our website, which is www.thesurvivorstrust.org. And if you go there, it's under the section what we do, and there's a whole load of information about the project, your responsibility as an employer, about the role itself, and then the training dates as well. And you can click on them and book yourself onto the training. We try and be really flexible as well, so we know that other stuff might come up between you booking and between the training. So if that does happen, we just ask people to please let us know so we can make that space available to someone else, but also get you booked on another more convenient training session. So we've got loads running between now and the end of the year. We'll keep adding them to the website as well.
And these are all free training sessions, aren't they, Vicky? Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, so the Home Office have funded us to provide this for free, so any organisation of any size in England and Wales, it is relevant. It's relevant to everyone.
Thanks, Vicky.
I would also just add on that that we can have several people from the same organisation too, and if especially sort of middle to larger organisations, I would certainly endorse that, because obviously they'll have more people to be there for. And another positive about having more than one person is that they've also now automatically got another person they can work alongside with any situations they're dealing with. It's great to have another colleague who's trained in this, who understands it, and they can do debriefs with each other as well, as sort of being able to talk things through and figure out potential options available.
Lovely, thank you. Thanks, Linda, and thanks, Vicky, and thanks everyone for watching. We hope to see you in our training soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.